was that there was no clue. They looked at me and they looked at the all-American boy, and I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I want to be quite candid with you. I was okay. I was. And the basic humanity and the basic spirit that God gave me was intact, but it unfortunately became overwhelmed at times. I think people need to recognize that it's not some kind of those of us who have been so much influenced by violence in the media, in particular pornographic violence, are not some kinds of inherent monsters. We are your sons and we are your husbands. And we grew up in regular families. And pornography can reach out and snatch a kid out of any house today. He snatched me out of my home. It snatched me out of my home 20, 30 years ago. And as diligent as my parents were, and they were diligent in protecting their children, and as good a Christian home as we had, and we had a wonderful Christian home, there is no protection against the kinds of influences that are loose in the society that tolerates.
You feel this really deeply, don't you?
If what Ted Bundy is saying here is true, then he is not responsible for what he did. If he was overtaken by this horrible porn addiction, then that takes the burden off of him for killing all of those people. And that is the real danger and the real evil of this attitude in the anti-porn movement, is this idea that, oh, it was all the porn made me do it. It was the porn that brainwashed me and ruined me and all of this. And if that is accepted, it just allows people to get off and not take responsibility and not take responsibility for their actions. And the amazing thing is that it reminds me of an old comic strip, Bloom County, one of my favorite comics. And in this one installment, the character Steve Dallas gets his back broken by Sean Penn because he was taking paparazzi photos of Sean Penn. He doesn't sue Sean Penn. He doesn't sue the character Opus who got him into the mess. He sues the camera company that sold him the film that went in his camera, because if they hadn't sold him the film, he never would have been in this situation. And of course it's obvious that he's just going after them because they have the most money. And so that is literally the logic here, that we have to somehow, instead of protecting society from criminals, we have to protect criminals from society. We, the entirety of society, have to do away with everything that is stimulating to us, just so that we can accommodate and placate these criminals. You don't, there are car wrecks every year, hundreds, thousands of them. There are drunk driving accidents. You don't take away cars from people who can drive responsibly because of the vast number of car wrecks. Ted Bundy, when he did that interview, was scheduled to die the following day. It is, I think, totally within the realm of reason, and I say this because, believe it or not, from what I've read up on serial killers for my book, what I've read up on them, serial killers are generally not insane. Oh, they may be troubled. They may, obviously they're troubled, obviously they have problems and things that are driving them, but they're actually sane, they're actually not incompetent, and they are in control of their actions. So it's very obvious to me that Bundy is trying to make this last-minute plea insanity plea to save his life, and you have to stop and think, well, okay, so he says he was motivated by porn, well, and that porn was a significant part of his life. Well, there are a lot of other things that were probably significant parts of his life, too, like, I don't know, eating breakfast every morning. But he doesn't blame that. Why? Because there's no great controversy surrounding eating breakfast every morning or any other factor in his life. But porn, there's this overwhelming, tremendous public outcry against pornography, and so he can hook his case onto that and try to make himself into the victim, which is absolutely disgusting. And this is what's really disturbing and really dangerous about the anti-porn movement, is that they take the responsibility for crimes like this off of the people who commit them and put them onto onto society at large. You know, the guy who shot John Lennon, Mark David Chapman, claimed that he was motivated by Catcher in the Rye. John Hinckley Jr., who shot Reagan, claimed that he was motivated by the movie Taxi Driver. You don't just take these things off of the market because people are say that they're motivated to kill because of them. They're not motivated to kill because of those things. Those things simply become if you will, a catalyst for the desire that they already have. If it wasn't Catcher in the Rye or Taxi Driver or pornography or whatever, it would be something else. There have been people. I'll have to put the woman's name in the thing at the bottom or whatever. I used to be able to say sidebar, but they changed that on me. Anyway, the thing at the bottom, I'll have to put her name and a link to the case in there because I can't think of it right now. But there was a woman who, in the name of Christianity, cut off her child's arms, you know, in the name of the Bible. When Mel Gibson's The Passion came out, there was one guy I heard about who tried to crucify himself, and after he hammered the first nail in, realized he didn't have any way to get the second one in. The thing that it ultimately comes down to, the reason that there's not a widespread call for a ban on Christianity, just like, for example, when I was in Boston, I was in Boston the year of the Super Bowl when the Pats won. It was the year that Janet Jackson had her nipple slip. All anybody cared about was the nipple slip. They didn't care about all of the people who died in the riots because the Pats won the Super Bowl. 6 people died in the block around my dorm and the surrounding area, in that area alone. There were riots all over town, destruction of property, public, private property. People were beaten up, murdered. They had to call in the riot police outside my building with glass shields and, bats to beat the people down. Nobody anywhere said, oh, well, these people were watching this violent football game, and they were watching these people commit acts of violence on each other, and they were inspired by those acts of violence to go out and commit acts of violence of their own. No, nobody said that, and I'm not saying it either. Those people have to take responsibility for their own actions. But the reason you don't hear anything like that is because there is no great social outcry against football. It's an accepted part of society. Christianity is an accepted part of society. Pornography is not. So it's something that people can attach their problems to and push their problems off on. And that is why that's one reason why pornography has to remain legal and has to remain available for public consumption, because you can't start trying to protect criminals from society. So anyway, I've got more videos in the Sharon Cooper series already recorded that I plan to put up, as well as some other topics I want to talk about. I'm almost done writing the book, so I look forward to trying to find a agent and a publisher and all of that. So anyway, thank you for all the support I've gotten from everybody, and for the people who have written in with the fantastic articles and resources. Y'all have helped tremendously. So thank you very much, and peace out. something else just occurred to me. Why do assassins always go by 3 names? You know, Mark David Chapman, John Hinckley Jr., John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald, James Earl Ray. It's something like unique to assassins is having going by all 3 of your names. You know, serial killers Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, David Berkowitz, they just go by 2 names. And generally the same thing with school shooters like Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. Why do assassins get 3 names? And I just thought of that. Anyway. And yes, I am well aware that Junior is not actually part of the name John Hinckley, but it's still 3 words in one name. And furthermore, why would they, you know, it seems like they almost went to the trouble to give him 3 names. Anyway.